Greetings and welcome to Darkstone's Picks. Some of you may have seen some of my scribbles on globalmusic.club. And I've been absolutely thrilled that some of the people I've written about have been previous guests. Coincidentally, both guests on both shows would not have been there if it wasn't for my coming guest on this day's show who had introduced us. So how wonderful is that the universe works to bring like-minded kindred spirits together. Who is my guest? Frankly, I really don't know where to start. I could use all the superlatives in the dictionary and I would not do her justice. From both a personal and professional viewpoint, I and many others absolutely love this lady. She is so many things. In one of the articles I wrote about her, and I believe it may be on the one on Darkstone's Picks on globalmusic.club, I described her as a Renaissance woman. Why did I choose that word? Because if we go back to the times of the Renaissance, there were people who did so many things. They were physicians, they were painters, they were musicians, they did all kinds of things. This lovely lady is all of that and more. She is also a priestess, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. She's the kind of priestess that even if you don't know she's a priestess, within 10 feet of actually being in the same room with her, you will feel that wonderful, marvelous energy. We both have a deep love for music, the esoteric, and spiritual matters. She is also a very talented dancer, an extraordinarily talented magician. Yes, you heard me right. She can do magic. She also happens to be married. Let me see, to whom? Someone who I and many others consider to be the greatest magician in the world at present. His name is Jeff McBride. So, ladies and gentlemen, it gives me enormous pleasure to introduce my guest tonight, Abigail Spinner McBride.
Thank you, Tony. It's a pleasure to be here with all of you. We begin with a moment of breath and awareness. I invite anyone watching this now or at any point in the future to take a couple of soft, slow breaths, fully giving yourself permission to be in this moment, here and now. Because in the present moment lies the potential of all possibility. And in the present moment, we are safe, we are well, we are whole. We breathe deeply and mindfully, aware now more than ever of what a precious gift each breath really is. I ask that this time that we spend together be a blessing for all those who watch it at any point in time. That anyone listening receives exactly what is meant for them to receive for the highest good, and that these seeds that we plant blossom into miracles, into beauty, into whatever is for the highest good for you, right here, right now. Friends, thank you so much for joining us for this experience. Thank you, Tony, for asking me. Namaste.
Great pleasure and an honor to have you. It really is. May I ask you now to please sing one of your wonderful songs. I know you've recorded many CDs and many songs, and I left the choice entirely up to you.
Well, I thought for the first song that I would share with you, I would share the very first song I ever wrote. This song grew from an ancient Hebrew prayer. And in Hebrew, the words say, Adonai sifatai tiftachu fi yagid tehillatcha. Oh, beloved, open my voice, open my lips that I may sing your praise. And this for me was an invocation and a welcoming to the creative forces to say, please, here I am, I'm your instrument, use me as you will, tune me as you will. And this song is called Let the Way Be Open.
Oh my, just wonderful. You know what? I think we're going to forget all about doing the talk show and I just sit back and just listen to you play all night. That would be good. But that would be so selfish of me, wouldn't it? No, I have to share other parts of you with people. And I believe you said to me that you have a well, as it comes from an ancient Hebrew, Adonai, etc. I think probably befitting in Hebrew to say Toda, which, as some will know, means thank you in modern Hebrew. Now you knew my love for ancient Hebraic things, so I'm so thrilled that you started with that. But I believe you have a little reading you'd like to share with us at this point. Am I correct?
I do. Thank you.
Okay.
We do different things with our time. And one of the things that started calling me a couple of years ago was to learn how to read written Sanskrit. It's called Devanagari. And so I took an online class and I've been practicing every day. And I've been working my way through an ancient Indian text called the Vijnana Bhairava Tantra, which is currently translated by Dr. Lauren Roach in the Radiant Sutras.
Ah.
And the reading for today was, it was perfect. And I thought, I must share this with Tony and with everyone. The Sanskrit says, Tantriyadi vadyu shabdeshu dirgeshu krama samstite. Ananya chitta pratyante paravyoma vapurbhavet, which means immerse yourself in the rapture of music. You know what you love. Go there. Tend to each note, each chord rising up from silence and dissolving again. Vibrating strings draw us into the spacious resonance of the heart. The body becomes light as the sky, and you, one with the great musician who is, even now, singing us into existence. Tantriyadi Vajya Shabdeshu, Dirgeshu Krama Samstita, Ananya Chitta Pratyante Paravyoma Vapu.
Wow, just beautiful. That's so we don't confuse anybody. That's Hindu from India, Eastern Indian, not to be confused with anything else. And I believe I know you know an awful lot about sutras and hand mudras, etc. I only know some basic ones, except this one, which I believe is Namaste, which is a kind of hello, greeting, thank you very much, goodbye. And that's about all my knowledge on it. Would you please explain to everybody what it actually means?
Well, sure. My understanding is that namaste is a gesture of respect, and it also stems from the meaning, the light within me honors the light within you. And so when we meet someone, we say namaste, we're saying, I see the divine spark within you, and I honor that. So, namaste.
Namaste. Well, that I think leads us beautifully into when we talk about the divine spark, and all sparks eventually, I guess, go into beautiful flames. And I know you're very much involved with flames and fire and secret ceremonies, except not secret ceremonies, sacred, I beg your pardon. One of them is the Illumination Sacred Fire Circle. Um, Talk to us about that. Share with us what happens.
Well, where do we start? 30 years ago or so, I went to a festival called Rites of Spring. And while there, this was a festival focused on music and magic and mythology. And that was Jeff's first time at that festival, and that's where we met. But that's a story for another time. Every evening, they would have bonfires with people playing music, playing drums, singing, dancing around the fires. And over the many years that Jeff and I attended this festival, we started looking at what was happening, looking at the meta dynamics of what was happening around the fire circle each night from about midnight until about sunrise. And I remember very clearly one night, Jeff had this spark of realization. And he said, oh, check this out, Spinner. The fire in the center is like the sun. And we're, all the people in the flare circle are like the planets going around the sun. And this is kind of heaven on earth. This is the microcosm of the macrocosm of our solar system. And then as he was getting into more and more into the study of alchemy and understanding what each of the planets represented in terms of growth stages and how they interact in our process of conscious evolution, we started creating a form based on the standard pagan fire circle, which we called the alchemical fire circle, because it's based on the paradigm of alchemy, of turning lead into gold, where the lead isn't necessarily an external outside metal that we want to make into something precious that costs lots of money, but it's the lead is what is inside of us, what is heavy, what is difficult in our lives, and how can we transmute that through our creativity, through safe risk-taking, like speaking in public, or writing a song and sharing it, or dancing, moving our bodies in new ways. How can we use the energy that we create in a magical, intentional space to turn our own lead to gold? And so the alchemical fire circle phenomenon, the experiment, has been going on for about 30 years now. And the idea is that we move from darkness to light. We move from the outermost planets of our solar system into the sun. We move from lead to gold, and we move up the chakras of our internal systems. And in so doing, when you get a group of like-minded people together in a safe container that is drug and alcohol-free and family-friendly, and everyone is there drumming and dancing and singing and playing and praying together from whatever spiritual path they come, then by the time the sun rises, by the time that big ball of fire appears on the horizon, you're going to have a capital E experience if you've been capital E engaged in the process. Because granted, the person who spends, 5 or 6 or 7 hours of the night in their tent napping and then comes out for sunrise to see what's happening have the same experience as those of us who
Right.
all night. But it's a wonderful experiment. I've heard testimonials from people saying that they were able to accomplish more in 3 nights of fire than they did in 30 years of therapy. I've seen the creative miracles that happen where whole new music albums, video projects, movies, documentaries, ideas are birthed and brought to fruition. And of course, there's always magic.
Well, it's really magic in the strictest sense of the word. When we're referring to magic, we are basically referring to magical entertainment, the kind of thing you see on stage. And if anybody wants to see some superb magic, as I mentioned earlier on, just go to YouTube and write the name Jeff McBride. Particularly his early days where he was doing magic that was based on kabuki, etc. There is so much that you've said there that I'd like to pick up on and ask you to elaborate. You've used words like magic. We've kind of sort of explained that, but there is a different magic. There's the alchemy, which Jeff knows about, and I'm very privileged that he's actually referred to me as a kind of esoteric sorcerer, and given me a private tour of some of the parts of your home where you keep certain wonderful books, etc. Now, speaking of your home, this is in Las Vegas. This is where you are right at the moment, and I've had the great privilege of being invited to come and appear on the Wonderground, which you do most Thursdays every month, barring this little time where everything's on lockdown. But we do that, and I'm delighted to have been there with the cast, where you very often, or most times, open that show with your own dancers. And of course, when we speak about dancing, we have to bring up the other word you spoke about, which is a drum. Now, as I understand it, if I remember correctly, the drum has had an extraordinary influence on your life. It actually called to you. Elaborate a little on that.
Well, I've heard it said that one of the first sounds we ever hear is the pulse of our mother's heart, this rhythmic beat that as our ears are only beginning to develop, we hear this steady drumbeat sound of the mother. And when we get quiet and we tune in and we really listen within our own physical beings, we can hear our own heartbeat as a reflection of the heartbeat of all life. And for me, the drum really was instrumental in my own musical awakening process. I had been a piano player since the age of 4. I had wanted to play drums then, and mother said, girls don't play drums, girls play piano. And I remember putting the lid over the keys down and playing the drums on the piano. That didn't go over very well
Right.
at the time. But I also remember as a child wanting to play and knowing what I was hearing, and my little fingers weren't able to do what I wanted. I didn't have the manual dexterity yet to do it. And I would get so frustrated and so angry. And I know even still today, when I'm learning something new, like reading Sanskrit, that there's this moments of like, I know what I want to do and I can't just do it yet, and how frustrating that is. And recognizing for me that that frustration is part of the learning process. So when I was learning to play drums very early on, I had gone to a music festival in Michigan.
Michigan. That
Yes.
conjures up a lot of images. Please continue, because I interrupted you with Michigan.
No problem, no problem. Yes, there was a music festival in Michigan, and I had gone out to walk one evening, and I heard the sound of drumming. And this was actually the first time that I had ever heard people drumming at night. And I followed my ears and found my way to a campfire where there were maybe 15 women playing drums around a fire. And I was completely entranced, like a moth to a flame. I knew, oh my gosh, I have to get in there. I have to see what this is. Now, I had, 20 years of piano playing behind me. I have a sense of rhythm, I have a sense of pulse, but I'd never touched a drum before, even though I had always kind of felt called towards it. And I sat down next to one of the women who was playing, and the woman on the other side said, "Here, I'm going to take a break, play my drum." And I looked at the drum, and I looked at the woman next to me, and I just started playing what she was playing as best I could. And this woman was Edwina Lee Tyler, who's like an amazing djembe player in the women's music movement. And she looked over at me and she said, "That's mine, get off." So I just kind of like tried to find my way in. But that was my first experience of like, oh, I really want this. This is where it's at for me. So I went back home and I bought my first drum and I started taking lessons and just diving into this whole other side of music that I had never experienced before. And since then, the drum has taken me all over the world. I've performed as an onstage percussionist with Jeff in his live show. I've taught classes. I think that more than anything, the power of the drum to awaken consciousness and connect the two hemispheres of the brain is extraordinarily powerful. They say that we have these two sides of our mind, right? There's the left brain that is very rational and logical, and the right brain that is very creative and musical. And when you're playing a hand drum, you're using both hands. So you're really getting both sides of the brain connected. There's this part in the center, right, corpus callosum, right? And the brain, these two halves of the mind are sending signals back and forth across that central part of the brain all the time. And the more we're able to do this, the more we're able to get the two halves of the brain to communicate well together, the more we can bring creativity to our logic and rationality to our emotions, and to have kind of these two minds working together as one. And there's a little exercise that I teach in some of my workshops, a great way to increase the congruency between the two hemispheres of the mind, which I would love to show you. Would you like?
Oh, I would love that. And I'm sure so would everybody else.
All right. Well, it seems very simple until you try it. But you take one finger and you hold it up like a pointer. And you take one thumb and you hold it up. And you point at your thumb. Yeah? And then you switch.
No. Yes. No. Yes. Okay. Gotcha.
And you switch back and forth.
Oh, great.
and that moment of like, wait, what? Wait, huh?
Yeah.
That's the moment when the brain is sparking a new connection. And like anything, as you practice, you get faster.
Yes.
Level one. There's two other levels to that exercise, Tony. Once you master level one, you let me know and I'll share them with you, okay?
Okay. Because speaking of that, I know you do a lot of workshops, and if people wanted to contact you, they can do that via Facebook or your email, etc. You don't just do workshops on drumming; you do workshops on a number of things, and to just call them esoteric or spiritual would not do them justice, because I think they're much more in-depth. And we talked earlier on about magical entertainment. Now, you have performed at some of the greatest places in the world, like the Magic Castle, etc. And you are a remarkable magician in your own right. I know we praise your husband Jeff, but people really ought to see you perform as well. And I have. Heck, I tell you, yeah, it's just amazing. Now, we talked about magic, and generally speaking, for most lay people, they kind of have this visual of, a bunny rabbit, a top hat, and something like that. But it's a little bit more than that. Actually, it's quite a lot more than that. It's a whole art form. And together with Jeff, you are an integral part um, of the Magic and Mystery School, which you run in Las Vegas or have been running for many years. And a man that we both absolutely loved and adored, respect and RIP, and as it's customary in Jewish households to say blessings for his memory, was dear Eugene Berger, who has now moved on to other parts, shall we say. Um, so, but tell us a little bit about what happens at these magic and mystery schools. Pretty much anyone who has an inkling can come and join those. Is that right?
Yes, yes, we have here in Las Vegas, the Magic and Mystery School has been teaching students the art of conjuring magic or performance
Mm.
magic for over 20 years. And we have both live classes that happen here in Las Vegas, which we expect will be starting up again in the next couple of months. And we also have a very strong online presence. Currently, we've thrown open the doors to our Mystery School Monday live show, which happens every Monday evening at 7 p.m. Pacific time.
Mm-hmm.
We have different themes and different guests. We've had Max Maven, we've had Charlie Fry, and it's always wonderful just to be able to engage in conversation with great minds of the art. You'll also see members of our faculty, Dr. Larry Haas, Tobias Beckwith, Scott Steelfire, myself, and of course Jeff. And we're very grateful to be able to host that through Zoom, this amazing modern technology that makes
Yes.
all of this possible. I was talking with a friend just the other day saying how, if this pandemic had happened 20 years ago or 30 years ago, it would have been a really different situation because we didn't have the technology to stay
Yes.
connected the way we do now.
Right.
And so
Yes.
what a gift that this happened now instead of then. Yeah. So the
But
Magic Mystery School is alive and well. People are welcome to join us online. You can look at magicalwisdom.com, and there's a number of great free resources there and also a listing of all the classes that we have coming up. People can email me. I'm Abigail, Abigail, at McBrideMagic.com, and I'd be happy to answer any questions people have about the school or conjuring magic or spiritual magic or mantra.
Well, it is a remarkable thing. It's not just kind of showing up online or booking to come on a course in Las Vegas and, just learning how to pull a rabbit out of a hat. It's not that. It's a lot more than that. It's about scripting. It's about moving. It's about many things. It's having many great names, as you've just said, online. And I remember a conversation with dear Eugene, blessings to his memory, at P.F. Chang's, which is down the road from where you are, with Tobias Beckwith and indeed Larry Haas and Bob Neal. We had a lovely dinner, and we chatted about that. Because this is a great thing. In the old days, and this kind of almost comes back to the spirituality and this joining of kindred spirits, there would be this grand master or group of masters, and then students would go to them. So this is wonderful that Jeff is doing this or has been doing this for some years now. And I happen to know personally some students from that school who have gone on to, shall we say, for want of a better expression, great things. One of them was Matt Franco, who won America's Got Talent, was one of the
Yes,
students. So,
he's 12 years old, so it's been really remarkable to watch his progress. There's in any art form, if you really want to advance, you need to have a teacher. Because
yes,
yes, you can learn to play piano from looking at YouTube videos, but your ability to advance will be so much more enhanced if you have a teacher, an expert, sitting with you saying, try this fingering, try this instead. Maybe you want to try that. Where a video from YouTube, it's a one-way interaction. You just absorb, but you don't have someone there watching you to give you specific feedback. And that's one of the things that we offer here at the Magic and Mystery School is an expert to guide you and to help you. And so that's one of the things that we talk about, is that we are improving the art of magic one magician at a time.
And it is indeed an art. It is an art form, and much the same as you said, playing a piano, being a ballerina or a belly dancer or any other art form. It's a performance art if it's done correctly. So basically, I think again you've touched on something that's very very important uh, in any discipline. If you don't have that instruction, everything you're doing is subjective. You cannot have this objective view, because let's be very honest, even the greatest stars in the world, be it stage or in a movie, have to have a director.
Mhm.
It doesn't matter how well they perform.
Indeed, they have a director, they have a voice coach, they have a costume designer, they have a lighting designer. People get a lot of help, in their journey to success. And, here at the Magic and Mystery School, we can help with all facets of someone's progress.
And there's an important facet, I think, particularly not only with the art of magic in particular, but in most of the other arts as well. I know this for a fact that when Jeff and all the other names that you've mentioned, and indeed yourself, when you are in parenthesis teaching, it's more instructional. And like all good teachers, they are not imparting what they know, they are bringing out what that student knows. And if a person is solo, they're never going to get past that point of what do I know? A good, experienced instructor will see and say, no, that is however much you love it, you can't play the guitar. Why don't you try a sitar? Because you are much better playing a sitar than you would with a guitar. I'm using a silly example to make a serious point.
Oh, yeah, I
Uh,
understand the point. I think here at the school, it would be more a matter of, I know you really want to play the guitar, but you're holding it upside down.
yeah.
Well, let me show you a different way you can accomplish the goal that you want to accomplish. So,
Absolutely. And in fact, I think, this has been a subject of contention and much debate over the years, and not so much nowadays, but still continues. And that is women in magic, the stereotype of this man coming on stage and doing magic, and, women can't do magic. Well, yes, they can. And you and I have many, many mutual friends who are excellent magicians in this performance art. In fact, you were on NBC television um, talking about that very topic, women in magic. What was that experience about? And can you recall some of the things you said there?
well, each year here at the Magic and Mystery School, we host an event for women who are interested in magic, either as performers or just as enthusiasts. And it's called Sisters of Mystery. And it happens in August each year. This year we'll be doing it online. I think it's the third Thursday in August, I believe. The dates will be up on magicalwisdom.com. And so I wanted to present a view of women in magic that would be accessible to the general public, that, you know, women have always been involved in magic. From ancient Greek and the Oracle of Delphi, this was a woman doing mind reading magic for thousands of years. The role was
Yes.
played by hundreds of different women over time, and the Oracle of Delphi was the most powerful woman in all of classic Greece. That great heads of state and generals would come to her and ask questions about what they should do. And she would give them often cryptic answers so that they could receive
Hmm.
wisdom from the divine feminine. But she was using specific magic effects that we know that can still be used. And so women have always been in magic from the dawn of recorded history. And when you come up through time, there was Jean Dennis, there was Talma, there was many, many famous women magicians who were fantastic in their own right. And what we saw was that when magic made the leap onto television, that especially in pre-television, in Victorian times, it wasn't considered proper for women to be entertainers. That there
Hmm.
was this thought that, entertainers were kind of lower class and that proper women were at home with their husbands. So women might assist their husbands on stage, like Adelaide Herman did with the great Herman, And then when he died, she took over the show and was a fantastic woman magician, you know. But what we saw as magic made its way onto TV was that, you know, magic was looking for eye candy. What's going to capture the viewer at home? And many male magicians aren't in the greatest shape, aren't the most handsome guys on stage. They're, you know, doing what they do, waving their hands, doing the magic. And they needed some young, beautiful, scantily clad woman to capture the viewer's attention, to capture the viewer's heart. And so this stereotype of, you know, the babe in the sequin bathing suit jumping into the box kind of grew to represent what women in magic had become. And now what we see is this whole second wave of women in magic, like Arian Black and Luna Shimada and Joan Ducour and so many others who are working as magicians without having to assume a stereotype. And when I started working with Jeff, we sat down with Eugene and discussed, like, okay, what is my character on stage going to be? Because I'm not interested in being the spangly bikini girl jumping in the box. First of all, I'm 5'9". I'm not going to fit in any of the boxes. Second of all, after you pass the age of 25, maybe 30, unless you're Charlotte Pendragon, you don't that great in a bathing suit. So I wanted to have a character that was going to reflect more of who I really feel like I am. That my character on stage is kind of me, but dialed up a few degrees. So the costumes that I wear are kind of Victorian, steampunk, long sleeves, long skirts, corsets, top hats.
I'm going to interrupt you there. I have to, because to everybody watching this, if you don't find it, I'll get it for you. But you really have got to see Abigail in a top hat. This is the only magician I've seen in my life who could wear a top hat and make it look good.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Well, hey, that's true. I've seen you in a top hat, and you know there's something you do for that hat. I don't know what it is, and I don't want to know what it is, but you're the only magician who can wear one and make it look really magical.
Thank you. Yeah, so we decided early on that I wasn't going to be the bimbo on stage, that really what Jeff and I both wanted me to be was kind of the partner in magic. That sometimes there's the assistant and sometimes there's the partner. And so as his partner in magic, there are times when he says, ladies and gentlemen, Abigail, and he leaves the stage and I come on stage and I do a magic routine. Something with silks or something with a candle or something with a thread. And that I have my own parts of the show that I carry on my own. And I think that there is definitely a place in magic for the assistant, and there's also a place in magic for the partner. So as a smart, educated, wise woman, I wanted my character on stage to also be smart and educated and wise. And I think that that comes across in our performances.
Well, you would be thinking correctly, because it certainly does. I mean, there are names you mentioned like Luna Shimada, which comes from, you know, it has magical genes, for those who don't know, from the great Shimada himself. And I have pleasure, you know, of course, I know her and I met her late mother, etc. And then you have, you know, wonderful people. I'm just going to, it just jogged my memory. It was not going to be part of the show, but I have to say this. A wonderful, wonderful, dear, dear friend of mine who was a student many years ago, about 15, 16 years ago, maybe. Her name is Christine, and she lives in Norway. The quick story, and she doesn't mind me telling this because she has told it publicly. The quick story is when she was about 13 or 14, she was diagnosed with cancer. And her big wish was to actually go to Las Vegas and attend one of the schools that sessions that Jeff was doing. Well, they managed to do all that and raise some funds, and she went there with her parents. and they just thought she was going to die in about 3 months. Well, she didn't, obviously. And then she came back, and she doesn't mind me telling this because she has told it. She would then perform at one time wearing a colostomy bag, and people didn't know this. She would actually get on stage, and I've worked with her in Scotland and Norway and other places, and she's just remarkable. She's kind of like an adopted daughter to me. She and my son are more or less the same age. And here's the wonderful story. It's magical. And as I say, it wasn't part of what I was going to talk about, but you prompted it. And I think it's important of how the universe does certain things that look like a mishap for the greater good of all. She's now in her mid-30s and an oncologist for children, a pediatrician. And she's just now moved into other specialities.
And
So that,
doing
yes, from that 14-year-old girl who went to Vegas, all this great journey, and she's performed for royalty in Norway, etc., etc., etc. And comes this full circle. And I've said to her, you know, if you never got sick, I wonder if you would be this great oncologist helping children and curing them from cancer. And one of the few people who can actually go into into a hospital ward and do a little something to make a child smile. And speaking of that, as part of the Magic and Mystery School, you have special sessions for doctors, do you not?
Indeed, we do. We do a course every year on magic and medicine, and we have an online class actually coming up, I believe, in just a few weeks with Dr. Ricardo Rosenkrantz about medicine and magic and more. So again, magicalwisdom.com is where all the classes that we offer
happen. Yeah, and you mentioned Ricardo, a doctor, and he is actually a medical doctor.
Yes.
And a very good magician. I've seen his performances. Now, in one of the videos that we're going to put on this is a very quick and fast tour of your home, which just shows people around. But the Magic and Mystery Schools actually take place in your home. It's not everybody going off to some remote theater somewhere. It's actually there. And that's where all the instruction happens. And I bring that up because your home, as I've mentioned before, being in there and sat at the kitchen table, etc., has this energy, for want of a better word.
Yes, our home is our temple, you know, and it really is our sacred space. And, you know, we are very, very grateful to live here, and we have so many wonders to share with people when they come to visit. People can meet our dragons. They can see the library of secrets. They can come up here and join me in the magic dojo. So there's lots.
There's a lot. It's a very deceptive house. When you walk in, you don't think it's that big, but it is. As you wander in, and you have, for want of a better word, secret passageways. Well, they're not really, but they're kind of places, shall we just say. I don't want to spoil it for anyone who comes visiting, but oh yeah, it's well worth it. It's well worth it. Speaking of which, you yourself have through Patreon a special page where people can actually join you daily or monthly or for the whole year. Explain to us a little bit about this page and what it is you do that people come and join you.
So if people are interested in joining me, they can go to patreon.com/Abigail Spinner McBride, and there you'll find a number of offerings. I post meditations, I post some text material that I'm working on, new songs show up there, and it's a way for anyone who's interested to share their appreciation and generous support with me so that I can continue making art and music to share with all of you.
This is a bringing together, again, of kindred spirits who may well feel, well, yeah, I would love to spend time with this dear lady, but how do we do it? And as you rightly pointed out, we have the advantages now of technology, and people can actually do that. I mean, pretty much like we're doing now. You're sitting in one part of the globe, I'm sitting in another, and, you know, we're exchanging thoughts and ideas, and this is what you do if you're holding a meditation class, for example.
That's right. People are welcome to email me, Abigail@McBrideMagic.com. That's probably the best way to contact me directly. You're also welcome to join me on Facebook. Abby Spinner McBride is my public page that's open for everyone. If we've actually met face to face, then come join me on my personal page, Abigail Spinner McBride. And there's lots to explore there.
It's easy enough to find you because I think basically just a quick Google, but we'll put all these links down at the end. And some of the links, if you want them, go to globalmusic.club, and underneath the brief article I did on you, there's some nice YouTube and other links that people can go to. Let me now take you beyond performance magic and all the advantages that it has, which is not just performing on stage, it's actually helping a young teenager heal from cancer to become an oncologist, to winning America's Got Talent, which is great, and it all helps the greater part of the universe. But I think you personally have a kind of personal mission, if I can call it that, objective. I mean, you choose the word you want, that you want to bring this universe together, a kind of global outpouring, oh, forgive the cliche, a kind of global outpouring of love among kindred spirits. Would that be a way of describing it?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
How best do you go about that? I mean, you've told us a few things. What led you down that path? What sort of in the universe plucked you out and said, you don't really have a choice, Abigail. I'm placing you on the path. Your choice is, do you walk it or not whether you choose the path. Would
Yeah.
that be an accurate summation of how it happened?
I think that's really true. You know, I've had 3 near-death experiences in my life. And the first happened when I was fairly young. There was a horseback riding incident where I ended up almost dead. And the second one happened in high school where there was a drunk driver, and again, I ended up almost dead. And the third was after college where I was involved in a motorcycle accident and again was really quite very nearly dead. And so after each one of these juncture points, I kind of had this sense of like, okay, by the law of statistics, I really should have died just then.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't. So
Right.
why? What am I supposed to be doing here? What track am I supposed to be on now, since the track didn't just end there? And so with each one of those, it became clearer and clearer, like, oh, okay, not X, but Y. Oh, okay, oh, not Y, but Z. Oh, okay, not Z, but Q. Okay, here we go. And I think for me, my guidance has always been move forward in the direction that you think you're being guided to move forward towards until you're shown something else. You know, so when I was in high school, I had no idea what I wanted to do with my life. I did not have any sense of like, what am I here for? I don't know. And someone said, if you don't know what you're here to do, find a way you can be of service, and you'll
Right.
figure it out from there. But there's kids who need help, there's elders who need help, there's sick people who need help. You're young, you're strong, you're healthy. Go help somebody until you figure out what you want to do. And so for 6 years, I worked with emotionally disturbed kids and then teenagers.
Mm-hmm.
And then it became clear, like, okay, this isn't what I want to be doing anymore. Obviously, not this. And then it was, okay, music. And I want to be doing music. I want to teach music. I want to be performing music. I want to be sharing music. And I did that for a number of years. And then it became clear, like, okay, this stream is very broad. Let me narrow this stream down to sacred music and inspirational music and music that connects to the heart and to the earth and to the spark of consciousness within each being. And now, you know, my work seems to be deepening into that groove. You know, that I think we start kind of wide and shallow, and then
Mm-hmm.
as time goes on, we find our grooves and deepen into them. So.
Hmm. It's fascinating. As I was saying earlier, you're the prime example of that, where occasionally one has to drift before you find the current, if I can put it that way.
Absolutely. One of our teachers, Gay and Katie Hendricks, talk about drifting and recommitting, where you set an intention, you start moving toward your intention, and then you drift away from it. You fall into shopping at Amazon or binge watching Netflix or reading romance novels, and you realize, oh gosh, I'm way off from where I started. And you recommit to your goal and you get back in line. The same way that a jumbo jet airliner that's running on autopilot will take off and it will have its destination set and it will start going, it will begin to drift and autopilot will correct it, and it will begin to drift and autopilot will correct it. That if you look at the actual flight path that a plane takes, it isn't a straight line from point A to point B. It's this little wiggly line as the autopilot adjusts and readjusts and readjusts. So I think for us, as we realize, oh gosh, I had this intention, but I seem to have drifted off course, there's no sense wasting time feeling like, gosh, I'm off course. This is terrible. How could I have gotten off course again? It's like, no, you just reset your compass and get back on track and put your energy into your intention, not into beating yourself up for falling off your intention. Does that make sense?
It makes perfect sense. Well, we've talked about a few topics, and I know that I could do this for another 10, 12 days with you, maybe longer. And there's so much we've left out. I've got an idea. I think I'm going to bring you back and focus on just certain topics that you've brought up. Quite when that is depends on your schedules and mine, and I know you're an extraordinarily busy lady. But before we go, I can't possibly let you not talk, not in detail, but a little bit on the near-death experiences and how they, for want of a better word, influenced you in being placed on a particular path. And also this whole universal concept of sound, which is orchestrated by the great conductor known as the great musician. So I would just leave you to elaborate on all of those topics.
Well, let's see. I think that the biggest takeaway for me from the various near-death experiences was having the fear of death removed. That there's this awareness that life is very short, that we blink and suddenly we're 50, and we blink again and we're 80, and we blink again and it's over. And I know for the early part of my life, I was very concerned about this. I'm a Scorpio, and so we have this fixation on death, and so I was very concerned about this. But after the motorcycle accident, where I actually was dead for a period of time, my own personal experience was one of feeling lifted out of my body into this spacious light where I was completely comfortable. I was completely at ease. I knew everything was really okay. And then I was back in my body. And coming out of that with the awareness of like, there is nothing to fear on the other side. There is nothing to fear on the other side. For me, made me feel more comfortable and less afraid in daily life. And also the awareness of it could all be over at any moment. Like you could be like on the back of your boyfriend's motorcycle driving down a country road at night looking up at the stars, and it could be over in a second. And since we don't know when that time is coming, it makes it so important for us to be really present in the moments that we have and to really tune in to how beautiful life really can be. I know for months after the motorcycle wreck, once I was out of the hospital, I would stop with open-jawed awareness and awe of how beautiful the shades of green were in the plants around my house, or how astonishing the sky looked at this moment, or how delicious this piece of watermelon tasted. And just the knowing that there are certain things that you can only enjoy while you're in a body, and how the more we can tune in and be aware of these pleasures that come with being alive, the more pleasurable life becomes. You know, we find more of what we look for. You know, so in our hindbrain amygdala, safety-seeking, survival-oriented old reptile mind that's looking for danger and looking for things that are wrong so that we can like either fight them or run away from them, the more we look with the eyes of the reptile inside, the more we see that's wrong that we either need to fight or run away from. And the more that we're able to bring our consciousness into our forebrain and tune into the current of gratitude and tune into the current of awareness of what is good, the more we're able to see all of those miraculous blessings that are around us every single moment of every single day. From the most basic, take a deep breath. My goodness, I can breathe unassisted with no machinery. There's plenty of people on the planet right now who can't. What a gift that is. The fact that we live on a planet that is the perfect distance from the sun, which means we have atmosphere, which means we have air to breathe at all. What a remarkable blessing that is. The fact that we have a sun that is able to make things grow out of the ground so that we can eat. What a miracle that is. The simplest things. The fact that we have either legs or wheels so we can walk or move or roll around, what a miracle that is. And that when we stop and we tune into these simple, daily, momentary pleasures, how amazing and miraculous life really becomes, and what a gift that is. So for me, connecting into my gratitude is one of the practices that I do every day as a way to tune myself as the instrument coming into tune with the rest of the symphony of life under the guidance of the great conductor, the great musician. And I know, you know, my friend Dr. Joshua Levin, he and I have been in a kirtan band for many years called Bhavantu, and as part of the band, periodically during a performance, he'll stop and take out his little silver hammer and tap on his tablas and get them tuned up. And I think of what a perfect metaphor it is for us. You know, when I'm experiencing some hardship or some reversal in life, and I feel like I'm getting hit with a hammer, that maybe what's happening is the great musician is bringing me into tune. And so what can I do on a daily basis so that the hammer taps can be light? Well, I can pay attention. I can notice in my own body when I'm about to make a choice or about to say something and my mouth wants to say one thing, but my heart is contracting and my belly's getting hard and my mind is retreating. Oh, maybe that's not the direction I want to go in. Maybe if I insist, no, I'm going to go in this direction, well, maybe I'm setting myself up for a few hammer taps, you know? Or I can tune in and I can listen to my body's wisdom and know that when I'm contemplating a decision and I choose, I make the choice to move toward that which lifts up my heart and softens my belly and relaxes my jaw, then I know I'm moving in the right direction. I can be guided by my body's reactions, by my emotional reactions. So gratitude is one way that I can tune myself into a higher vibration. Appreciation is one way that I can tune myself into a higher consciousness, where I can look for what is good and I can tell people what I see in them that is good. Or I can write a letter to a teacher who I had when I was in high school who probably doesn't remember me, and I can tell Ms. Lynn Guitone how instrumental her teachings were to me in English and how much of an impact she's had on my life. So appreciation, gratitude, these are two of the easy tools that I can lift my consciousness with. Honesty and telling the truth is another one, and that it's possible to speak your truth kindly. You know, I think for a lot of us, when we're first learning about honesty and boundaries, that we feel like we need to be really hard. Well, I need to tell you how it is. And it's like, well, yes, and, or we can just say, look, I understand that that's how you feel, but here's how it feels to me. and I can speak my truth in a way that is kind. And that when I'm kind and when I'm honest, that's another way I can lift my vibration and get into tune. Singing and chanting and dancing and using my creativity, these are all ways that I can tune myself to a higher, more positive vibration. And I think, especially in current times like these challenging ones are for many, the more we can tap in to lift our own vibration, the better off we're going to be, and the healthier our immune systems are going to be. And I think more than anything, staying in the present moment, not letting the mind run away off into the future of, oh my God, what would happen if, and what am I going to do if, and what about if, but to stay present in the moment. The charm that I've been using that I wrote to help me with that says, stay in the moment, stay in the day, keep breathing, we'll be okay. Stay in the present, leave the past, forget the future, this too shall pass. And so I've been repeating that to myself over and over. When I notice my mind is jumping out of the present moment into future fear, it's like, get right back here. Get right back now. Because right here and right now, I'm okay. You're okay.
Mm-hmm.
You're watching
Right.
it. You're okay. And I think that's where the power really lies, is in the present moment. And I think that, that as humans, we are always looking to feel safe. We're always looking to feel connected to our source, to feel protected. And I know that for me, one of the sources of protection that I look to frequently comes from the angels. There's a prayer that my mom used to say almost every night to us in Hebrew, B'Shem Adonai ve'al kol Yisrael, Mimini Michael, Mismoli Gabriel, Miacharai Uriel, Milifanai Raphael, Va'al Roshi Shechinot El, which is a calling to the angels of light. And so I wrote a piece that I'd love to share with you to bring us close to the end of our time, which is an invocation to the angels of light.
Yes, please. And thank you for reminding me of that remarkable prayer I heard many moons ago when I was in Israel. And it actually contains the name of my favorite angel, which is Uriel. For reasons, because you know me and you know what he represents, why he's my favorite, but we won't go into that. I would much rather sit here, and I'm sure everybody else would love to hear your invocation, please.
Thank you. Ithuriel, Ithoth, Itkau, Iophiel, Israfel, Iahu. Know all, cover all, shield all, protect all with your love. The great shadows of wings swarm into the sky, and over the garden circle below. Above this gathering, hover and fly. Ilamel, Ilalaus, fine ephemerae, come this way. Make a roof above this place where your many children stay. Angelic heavenly choirs sing now with radiant hearts of fire. Mitra, Mitatron, Midi, Michael burning bright, Menziel, Mendrion, guard the children's sleep by night. 7 angels greater still rise and thunder on the hill. Gabriel, Tzadkiel, Hadriel, Uriel, Michael now, and Raphael, and Ariel who sings. Stand about your children and guard us with your wings. Rain away our worn desires. Fill us with your holy fires. Multitudinous your loving, multitudinous in holy sound. Now on all sides manifested come, and every soul surround. Sisters, brothers, brothers, sisters, gather here and growest tone, where the Spirit Holy makes this gathering all. Voices singeth, shadows ringeth, here and here and here again. Angels of heaven, send your blessings like a gentle rain. Wondrous and many, like a grove, do ring us round. Angels of heaven, sacred ground. Know all, cover all, shield all, protect all with your love. Surrounded by light, we are. 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 Bring in the angels, sing in the angels. Let them come and watch us play. Bring in the angels, sing in the angels. Let them come and watch us pray. On our right we fire, behind us Gabriel. On our left Uriel, in front of us Raphael. And on our heads and over our heads, the presence of the one. And on our heads and over our heads, the presence, the presence, the presence. Surrounded by light, we are. 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 Bring in the angels, sing in the angels. Let them come and watch us play. Bring in the angels, sing in the angels. Let them come and watch us pray. On our right, Michael. Behind us, Gabriel. On our left, Uriel. In front of us, Raphael. And on our heads and over our heads, the presence, the presence, the presence. And on our heads and over our heads, the presence of the one. Surrounded by light, we are. Surrounded by light, we are. Surrounded by light, we are. Surrounded by light, 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 surrounded
Well, yes, that's left me speechless, which is not something that often happens, as you well know.
Thank you,
Ab-
Anthony. Thank you so much for having me as a guest today.
oh, Abigail, the reverse. Thank you so much for making the time. I know what your schedules are like. It is deeply appreciated. Much gratitude to you for making the time. Um, and I know if just one person, and I'm sure there will be many, but if just one person takes away something from your words, I would be very grateful that we managed to do this, and that's the entire purpose of this. In fact, um, I will. And later on, as people look at this, they will see the various links to different things and so on. But let me express to you on camera a very deep appreciation and gratitude for doing this, and from a personal point of view, for absolutely knowing you and the privilege of having spent time with you in Las Vegas, and hopefully we will do that again very soon.
It
So
is my pleasure, Anthony. Thank you so much. As we close, I want to invite everyone who's watching here now to become aware of all that is below you. Your body as it's being supported on the chair, on the floor, wherever you are, the earth that is below you, and your connection to all beings on the earth. And as you breathe deeply and naturally, I want you to become aware to all that is above you, the sky, the atmosphere, the heavens, the sun and the solar system, the universe and the vast reaches of space above. And as you breathe deeply and naturally, I invite you to imagine yourself encircled with light, surrounded by light in a perfect sphere extending out in all directions. And on your next in-breath, this light comes in and contracts and sticks to your skin all over. And at this moment, you are grounded, connected, protected, and sealed. May all beings everywhere know this safety, this peace, and this joy. And may our lives in some way contribute to this great knowing. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for joining. May the way before you be blessed. I'm Abigail Spinner McBride. Thank you.
thank you so much.